All right, we are back with another tiers ranking video. We are going to get into second base tonight and break down the position, kind of run through my thoughts, who I like, who I don't like at the position. And this one's a little bit rough. There are a bunch of players down the board that are kind of sketchy. They have up and down past seasons, and I'm not really sure how reliable they will be this upcoming season. Probably once I get past like tier 3, I have a bunch of questions about some of these players, but we'll get into every player in my top 23, and we'll kind of go through their baseball savant page, go through what they did last year, and then figure out where they rank going into this year. I am just going to jump right into it. I'm going to start with tier 1. Just two names in this tier, Jazz Chisholm Jr. and Ketel Marte. Both are in tier 1. And I'll start with Jazz. Last year, 31 home runs, 31 stolen bases, 80 RBIs, 75 runs, 242 batting average, and a 332 on base percentage. Now, he had a really good season last year, and it wasn't even in a full season necessarily. I believe he only played 130 games last year for the Yankees, still hit 31 homers, stole 31 bases. So he has the potential to go easily 35-35 in a full season. He stole 40 bases in 2024 with 24 home runs. So the stolen base upside is there. And obviously last year we saw the home run upside. Now, his baseball savant page is kind of up and down. His batting average, it suggests his batting average will be low probably for his entire career. Just looking at what he did in 2023, 24, and 25, I wouldn't expect more than a 250 batting average, especially last year. His expected was 234. But he does have some pop. Barrel percentage is high. Bat speed's well above average. Hard hit percentage is about average, but bat speed and barrel percentage are there. And then his xWOBA is in the 78th percentile. So that's good to see too. Pulls the ball a ton. You can see the spray chart over here on the right side of the screen. Most of his home runs were to the pull side. Probably in Yankee Stadium. Does go a little bit to center, but doesn't really have much oppo power at all. But if he can continue to do that in Yankee Stadium, it probably won't be too big of an issue. Now, the real problem is him staying healthy. If you go down to his games played, highest in his career is 147 games with the Marlins and Yankees in 2024. That was combined. But him not even playing 150 games in a regular season in 6 MLB seasons is kind of scary. It's also scary because you're taking him with the 22nd pick on average. So you're paying up for a guy who can potentially go 35-35 in a full season, but he could also miss a chunk of the season as well. So high risk, high reward with Jazz Chisholm for sure. But I think it could be worth it if he plays even close to a full season. Now, going to number 2 on my second base rankings, it is Ketel Marte. 28 home runs last year, little to no speed, but good contributor in runs and RBIs. And then batting average and on-base percentage really stand out for him. 283 batting average, 376 on-base percentage. So does get on a ton, and we can see that over here as well. If we go to his savant page, he gets on a ton. He's done it the past 3 seasons. Lowest on-base percentage was 358 in 23. But 2024, 2025, both right around 370, a little above 370 mark. And it actually looks like he underperformed that number in 2025. xWOBA was 390, XBA was 285. And for someone who's getting a little bit older and he's on the smaller side for a second baseman, he still hits the ball really hard. Bat speed's 85th percentile, barrel percentage is 83rd percentile. So definitely hits the ball hard, usually squares the ball up. So I think you should get solid numbers from Ketel Marte, although he is getting older. And if we go back in time, we can see that from 2024, he definitely regressed. Obviously, he hit 36 home runs. That's not going to happen again, I don't think. 2025 seems a little bit more on par with what he's done in his career. We can see that he's played 11 MLB seasons. His career high in homers was that 36 home run season, and then he only hit over 30 one other season in 2019. So I think I could see a little bit of regression in the home run department. I wouldn't be shocked if he hits around 25 home runs like he did in 2023. Played 150 games that season, hit 25 home runs. But you can see here he does have a little bit of trouble staying on the field. That's also another concern with Marte as well, just like Chisholm. 136 games in 2024, 126 games in 2025. So if he can put together a semi-full season, I would expect around 25 home runs. If not, that number could definitely dip. But overall, I probably would like Marte over Jazz at his ADP. I feel like they could end up being around the same player. Obviously, Chisholm will provide the stolen bases, but Marte's batting average and on-base percentage will be higher. So that kind of makes up for the loss in the stolen base department. All right. Move on to tier 2 here, and it is going to be just one player. I only have one player in this tier. I think Bryce Turang is slightly better than the guys in tier 3, but just not as good as the guys in the top tier. He actually was the highest point scorer at the position last year in 2025, but I think I can see a little bit of regression in his numbers going into 26. We'll go over to his statistics from last year and look at Bryce Turang. So if we look at his hitting, nothing really stands out too much on his Baseball Savant page. 24 was pretty rough. 25, he did improve a couple things. Hard hit percentage improved. Bat speed even improved a little bit. Bat speed was really low in 2024. Actually jumped up pretty high in 2025. So you can definitely see a little bit of improvement there. But I don't know if he can sustain that. He is only 26 on the smaller side, but I do think the stolen bases will still be there. Stole 26 in 2023, 50 in 2024, and then that came down to 24. So somewhere around 25 stolen bases is definitely realistic for Bryce Turang, although the 18 home runs, I find that will be hard to repeat. He only hit 6 in 23, 7 in 2024, and I believe he had 1 month where he hit like 10 or 11 home runs last season. If you take that out of his statistics, he's right around that 6 to 7 home run mark. So obviously he got really hot at some point. Average and on-base percentage looked really good last year, 359 on-base percentage, but it does look like he overperformed that a little bit. 335 xWOBA, 226 XBA. So I think those numbers could come down a little bit. Stolen bases, like I said, should stay relatively the same. If home runs come down, RBIs will most likely come down as well. So I'm expecting a little bit of regression from him, but he could surprise me. In ADPs going at 45, that's actually a pretty nice discount from the tier 1, Chisholm and Marte. So I wouldn't necessarily mind picking Turang around 45, just given the upside of what he did last year. 18 home runs, 24 stolen bases. It's still a relatively great second baseman at a position that definitely has its flaws. As we move down the board here, you're going to see that there's not many guys that can steal or that can hit and steal, 18 home runs, 18 stolen bases in a season. So might be a good buy depending on if he repeats that. Also, did play the full season. You can't really hold that against him. He could definitely repeat that, but guys like Marte and Jazz Chisholm did not. So it's kind of why I'm bumping them up slightly. Alrighty, moving on, we'll go to tier 3, and this is where kind of open things up a little bit. I think a lot of these players in this tier are relatively the same. Now, the order of these might be different than you've seen on at least the average draft position of these players or other rankings you may have seen. I do have Luke Keeschel at 4, Nico Horner at 5, Jose Altuve at 6, and then Brandon Lau at 7, all in tier 3. So with Keeschel, only played 49 games, did hit 4 home runs, 14 stolen bases. RBI and runs were fine in that stretch. Hit 302 with a 382 on base percentage, which I really like. Going to go to his stats and baseball savant from last season here. And 14 stolen bases in only 49 games is pretty appealing. Sprint speed was 85th percentile. I think he can get to a high stolen base number, which is why I have him at the 4 spot. If we look at just the average draft position, he's all the way down here at 119. So I'm definitely liking him more than the average person, I guess you could say. But I think because I think he can steal so many bases and have a relatively high batting average, I like him over some of the other guys we're going to go over later. He might not have an insane amount of power, but he still is only 23. That can slowly develop over time. And the stolen bases are, I feel like, inevitable with Keeschel. 14 in 49 games, that puts him on like a 50 stolen base pace over a full, over 162 games. But obviously I don't expect that. But if he could get somewhere into the 30-35 stolen base range in a full season with, let's just say, even if he only doubles the home runs, hits eight homers and 40 stolen bases, I think that's very realistic. And he's really not going to hurt you that much in batting average. I think he could be definitely a breakout pick, especially if you're getting him around pick 119. So definitely high on Luke Keeschel. I guess we'll see if that pans out in 2026. Number 5, I do have Nico Horner. Very much like Keeschel. A little more experience, 7 homers, 29 stolen bases, 89 runs, 61 RBIs, 297 average, 345 on base percentage. This is pretty much what Luke Keeschel could be, I think, with a little more home run, a little more stolen base upside. But Horner has done this in several seasons. So definitely not a bad option at second base either if you you just can't expect any power really at all. He doesn't hit the ball hard, really doesn't barrel the ball up. Bat speed's only in the 8th percentile, but he does get on base. Batting average is 292, or his expected was 292. He actually hit 297, and 345 on base percentage I'm not going to complain about, but that power will not be there. RBIs will be lower, but he will contribute a ton in runs. And I do expect him to bat pretty high in the Cubs order. I believe he has been hitting leadoff. If he gets moved down to like the 5th spot, I don't think that would be too much of a problem. It could hurt his stolen base upside potentially, but I think he could get back to close to 30 stolen bases with 82 percentile sprint speed there. So very interesting player here. Not a lot of power at all. Speed upside. We'll get on base and hopefully will provide a lot of runs, barring he hits higher in the order. All right, going to number 6, an old veteran, Jose Altuve. He is outfield eligible as well. Last season, 26 home runs, 10 stolen bases, 80 runs, 77 RBIs, 265 average, and a 329 on base percentage. This, I feel like, was kind of out of nowhere for Altuve. Obviously, he's getting older, has provided some power in the past, but this was like a whole nother level. And I have him much lower in my rankings. So ADP on him is 99. I do have Keishel above him, Horner above him, obviously. And I do have that because his underlying numbers really do not back up what he did at all. And Altuve's always been someone who kind of overperforms his underlying metrics. He did it in 23, 24, and definitely did it in 25. But you can see bat speed is getting slower and slower. Average exit velocity is getting lower and lower every season, and he's 35 years old. I just don't see the power staying at what it was last year. 26 home runs, that has to be his ceiling at this point in his career. He only had one other season. So 2022, he hit 28 home runs. 21, he hit 31 home runs. But that was, 3 or 4 years ago. And that number has now come down to 26. I do see it regressing to, let's say, 20 if he plays a full season. And if that doesn't happen, it could come down even more to, I would really expect like 15 to 20 home runs from Altuve this year. And batting average and on base percentage, you can see past 3 seasons has decreased every single year. I probably expect that to decrease again or remain relatively the same. On base percentage is not going to hurt you. Batting average really won't hurt you, but not going to help you either. And then his sprint speed also continues to decline. If we go to, let's say, 2020, 88th percentile, and then it just kind of continues to slowly decline here over time. So down to the 35th percentile, and I don't think that he will steal many bases. 10 might be a fair amount if he's motivated to run, but I'm expecting like a 15 to 20 homer, 10 stolen base season, and that's probably his ceiling there with that. So kind of fading Jose Altuve, but if he does slip in the draft down towards like 120th ADP, it's probably not a bad pick for second base. And then at 7 in tier 3 still, I do have Brandon Lau, 31 homers, 3 stolen bases, 83 RBIs, 79 runs, 256 average, and a 307 on base percentage. And he had a really, really great season last year with the Rays. He did sign with Pittsburgh. I believe he signed or got traded to Pittsburgh. I'm not sure which one. But had a good season last year. Played his entire career with the Tampa Bay Rays, 8 seasons. So it's going to be a change of scenery for him, a little bit of change of pace. But the Pirates have upgraded their lineup this season. I think they could see a little bit of an uptick in offensive production. So I don't think it's a a bad thing for Brandon Lau. Now, the stadium might have helped him a little bit last season. If we go to his home and away splits, he actually hit 15 homers at home, 16 away, so it is kind of showing that his power was legit. And he does hit the ball relatively hard. Bat speed's, pretty good. The thing with Lau is that he's had trouble staying healthy in his career, and he really put it all together last season. 134 games. It's the most he's played since 2021, where he hit 39 home runs. So if the one thing about a player is that he can't stay healthy, if everything's there, we saw it with Byron Buxton last year. He stayed healthy and played incredibly well. So, another guy like that, if Brandon Lau stays healthy, I think he can hit 25 home runs to 30 home runs again in Pittsburgh. But the injury bug could hit him. That just sometimes happens. Now, you're not going to get much speed, and on-base percentage and batting average are not that great from Lau, but huge power bat at the second base position, and I do like him pretty much in fantasy. So I have him at 7. In ADP, Brandon Lau is at 156. So I like him well above where he's being drafted currently in, regular fantasy leagues. Alrighty, tier number 4. Do have another group of 4 players in this tier, and a mix of power and speed here. So Ozzie Albies and Jorge Polanco both normally provide some power. Rafaela and Edwards are kind of speedsters, but we'll start at the top. Number 8, I do have Ozzie Albies here. Now, last season was kind of odd for Albies. He has been dealing with some injuries, so he's been up and down these past 2 seasons in 2024 and then 2025. But if we do go to 23, his numbers looked really well. 33 home runs, 13 stolen bases, and hit for a good average, a decent on-base percentage. And I'm kind of hoping for a bounce back here from Albies. He said he's fully healthy and recovered. I think in a full season, I wouldn't be shocked if he's back to around 20 homers and, 10 to 15 stolen bases. That might be a little bit high, but if he hits 20 homers, steals 10 bases, and gets his average and on-base percentage up a little bit, I think he's a great option at second base. And then runs and RBI should be there for Albies. 74 both last year, runs and RBIs. He's done much better than that in recent seasons. 23, 96 runs, 109 RBIs. Should be hitting in a good lineup. I expect a bounce back from Olsen and Acuna. Obviously, they're both healthy. And I think this Braves lineup could be significantly better this year. Albies is going in between Keishel and Lau here at number 9 off the board at 135 on average. So I feel like I'm right around consensus on Ozzie Albies going into this season. And then at number 9, I do have Jorge Polanco, who is now a New York Met. He does have third base eligibility as well, so I'll probably touch on him there too. But 26 home runs, 6 stolen bases, 64 runs, 70 RBIs, 265 average, and a 326 on base percentage last year. Go to Polanco's stats and data from last year. Pretty good overall player. Not going to get much speed, but he's had 4 or more in the past 3 seasons, and his power really came along last year. 26 home runs was relatively high for Polanco. Let's see in his career, 12 seasons, with Seattle last year, and that was his second highest home run total. He did hit 33 for the Twins in 2021, and his power has been relatively steady these past couple seasons. I think some regression probably is in store for Polanco. I wouldn't necessarily expect 26, but maybe 20 home runs if he has a full season. I wouldn't doubt that. And 20 home runs, 4 stolen bases with relatively good counting stats, I think he's a fine option. He should get a bunch of RBIs. I think he's going to bat right in the middle of the order for the Mets with Lindor, Soto. So I don't think that'll be a problem at all, really. And yeah, overall, fine option, I think, at second base. He is all the way down here at 16 at the second base position, going around 203. So I'm definitely higher on him. Obviously, there's going to be some regression, but I think his RBI total will be higher. Home run total will be higher than most of these other players that we're going to go over on this list. At number 10, I do have Ceddanne Rafaela for Boston. 16 home runs, 20 stolen bases last year, 84 runs, 63 RBIs. Average and on-base percentage are low, both in the 200s. It's not really what you want to see for on-base percentage. And his underlying stats do not back that up at all. Now, I think he could steal 30 bases in a full season, potentially. But his hitting is really bad. If we go to 24 and 23, his hitting metrics, pretty much everything from exit velo, hard hit percentage, bat speed, are not all below average. So do I think he's going to hit 20 home runs ever? No. Do I think he could steal 30 bases potentially in a full season? Yes. But the average and on-base percentage are probably going to kill you, because having a guy that hits 240 with, a 280, 85 on-base percentage, it's going to hurt you more than it's going to help you. Especially if you're in a roto league. Like, the stolen bases are nice, but you can get stolen bases with other guys like Keishel, who have an on-base percentage above 300. Because that's gonna really hurt your average or on-base percentage. But if he can put it all together and increase that, he's a great player. And he is still young, so I don't doubt that he can't do that. Only 25 years old. So if average and on-base percentage can come up and he can actually get on base, he probably will steal more bases. And if he hits 15 home runs, like that's a really, really solid second base option. I can't count on it. So that's why he's down here at number 10. And let's check out his ADP on average. Rafael's going at 157, so right below Brandon Lau, right above like a Jorge Polanco and a Marcus Semien, who we will get to soon. But at 11, I do have Xavier Edwards for Miami. 3 home runs, 27 stolen bases, 43 RBI, 75 runs, 283 average, and a 343 on base percentage. Edwards is pretty much all speed and no power. If we go to his Savant page here, doesn't hit the ball hard. Exit velocity is low. And bat speed's like bottom of the barrel. But he does get on base at a relatively high clip. I'm not sure. That 24 looks like a little bit of an outlier. 397 on base percentage. I think it could actually dip lower than 343 too. His xWOB was 295 last year. So that could even regress more. But the speed looks like it's pretty legit. 75th percentile sprint speed, but stole 31 bases in 24 and 27 in 2025. So I would expect 25 plus stolen bases, just not a lot of power from Edwards. And if you need a guy who can steal a ton of bases and hit for a decent batting average, I think Edwards could be your guy. But I really would not expect anything more than that. Edwards is down here behind Rafaela at 169 in ADP, but like I'm taking Jorge Polanco over both those guys just because his batting average is going to be higher than them, and on base percentage is probably going to be higher than both those guys, I think. And then he'll hit more home runs, drive in more guys. So that's kind of what I'm looking at there. Obviously, stolen bases are not going to be as high, but I'd rather multiple categories, multiple pluses at categories than negatives. And then moving on to tier 5, I have 6 guys in this tier, so a little bit of a glob here at the second base position. We'll start off at number 12. I do have Gleyber Torres up here, and it's kind of an odd spot. Like I'm not really sure that many of these guys don't have much that can actually separate them from this tier, so that's kind of why I have them all grouped together. Torres is a huge contributor in RBIs and runs, and usually has a decent on-base percentage, and then will contribute a couple home runs, but really no speed. If we go to his ADP, Gleyber Torres is way down here at 17, pick 210 on average. And I like him a little bit more than others because he provides the nice floor with getting on base and batting average, and then he does contribute in runs and RBIs. Like he has contributed the past couple seasons with, plenty of runs, 90, 80, and 79 in the past 3 seasons, and then RBIs in that relatively good Detroit lineup. Around 70 on average in the past couple seasons, past 4 seasons. So I think that's kind of why I like Torres. I think there's a little bit more home run upside. His bat speed is not too high, but average exit velocity is around the 50th percentile and hits the sweet spot a bunch. So, and really squares the ball up 80th percentile there too. So I think 15 to 18 home runs is realistic, and, solid like 340 plus on base percentage from the second base position. That's nice to have as well. Overall, solid contributor in most categories besides stolen bases. And then at 13, I do have Bryson Stott. 13 home runs, 24 stolen bases last year, 66 runs, 66 RBIs, and then 257 average with a 328 on base percentage. Overall, Stott is a great player. I shouldn't say great. He's a very serviceable player. Will contribute in most categories. Power will lack a little bit, but 10 to 15 home runs is not going to kill you, and his stolen bases do make up for that. Around an average of like 28 stolen bases over the last couple seasons. So that's relatively nice speed for this second base position, and he should bat like in the middle of the Phillies lineup, I would assume, at least against righties. He does get benched a little bit against lefties, which is concerning at times, but does play around 150 games every season. So overall, he's going to be a fine player. There's really not much to say with Stott. He's down here at 15, pick 186 on average. And if you're looking for a little bit more speed, I wouldn't mind taking Stott over Gleyber Torres, just because he will guarantee you that he will get you more stolen bases for sure. And then his home run total could be semi-close to Torres. He's just not going to get the runs and RBIs that Glaber does because he bats lower in the order. So you're missing out on runs and RBIs, but you're gaining in stolen bases and probably getting even in his home run total. But they're about the same player. That's kind of why what I said, like with all these guys. So I move on to 14, Marcus Semien, 15 home runs, 11 stolen bases, 62 runs and RBIs, and then 230 average, 305 on base percentage. Now, getting to these guys, average is a little bit of trouble here. 230 average is pretty low. And his on base percentage is pretty low as well. So that's kind of troubling. And there's definitely some regression coming for Semien over these next couple of years. 35 years old, hit 29 homers in 23, 23 in 24, and then only 15 last year in 2025. So I think 15 home runs is probably repeatable for Marcus Semien, and 10 stolen bases seems pretty legit for him as well, but he's not going to get back to 20 plus home runs, I don't think. I just think he's getting older and doesn't have the bat speed, doesn't have the average exit velocity to get back to that point. And this is going to be his 14th season. So solid option. I think, he could provide 15 and 10 stolen bases and then an okay amount of RBIs and runs in the Mets lineup, but batting average and on base percentage don't look too hot, probably heading in the wrong direction there. But here at 15, 14, it's not a terrible option. If you do want some more upside, I think these guys later, 15, 16, and 17, are going to be a better choice. Matt McLain, I do have at 15, with 15 home runs, 18 stolen bases last year, 73 runs, 50 RBIs, 220 average, and a 300 on base percentage. Now, McLain has definitely had his ups and downs for the Reds, but he's put together two relatively okay seasons. 16 home runs, 15 home runs, and then 14 and 18 stolen bases. I think the stolen bases will be there. He's in the 93rd percentile in sprint speed, so I think he could get to 15 to 20 stolen bases pretty easy in a full season. He just has to stay healthy. But another guy where on base percentage and average are probably going to kill you in a roto league, because xWOBA looks pretty bad. At least in 2025 it did, and then XBA was 212 for Matt McLain. He does get the boost because he plays in Cincinnati, so that could be elevated because of that, but I wouldn't count on it. And then home runs and stolen bases are going to be okay for a second baseman. So there's some upside. He's still only 26, playing in Cincinnati, but probably not a super high ceiling. And then 16, I do have Jackson Holliday here at 16. I would have him higher on this list, but he is hurt, and he's not going to start the season on the roster, or at least in the starting lineup. And they've already come out and said that, so I think his numbers could decrease a little bit. Already probably going to miss a week or two at least of the season. So already taking 5 to 10 games off of what he'll do this season. But last year, 17 home runs and 17 stolen bases, 70 runs, 55 RBIs, 242 average with a 314 on base percentage. Now, I would probably be buying Jackson Holliday at this point. He's only 22 years old still, already 2 seasons in the majors, and I think if he's healthy once he gets back, there's room to grow on his home run and stolen base mark. And I'm really just banking on his growth and development. I mean, only 22 years old, already 2 seasons under his belt, and sprint speed is in the 82nd percentile. If we look at his hitting from 2024 to 2025, all of pretty much barrel percentage. Sweet spot percentage went up, squared up percentage went up. XWOBA and XBA both went up a ton from 2024. So I think that could keep improving a little bit. I wouldn't be shocked if he's like a 325 on base guy and like a 250 average guy at second base. And if he can, if he can hit 15 home runs and steal 20 bases, that's a fine option here at this ADP has not adjusted, but his ADP has been falling recently due to that injury. So it's probably somewhere down like at the 170 mark, I would assume. So if you want to pick him up late and someone else to start right away, I think that could be a good option in like a 12-team league. And then at 17, I do have Otto Lopez, 15 home runs and stolen bases last year, 77 RBIs, 66 runs, a 246 average, and a 305 on base percentage. Lopez is kind of like an Xavier Edwards, but there's some more pop to his game. He's pretty fast, 81st percentile, and did hit 15 home runs last year. Now, I think that might be close to his ceiling. He's already 27 years old. Hard hit percentage and exit velocity are well below average. Same with bat speed. But he did square a bunch of balls up last year, 90th percentile in that. So that is positive for Lopez. His average is slightly lower than I would hope. He underperformed that last year. 269 was his XBA. He hit 246. So another guy where I'm really not sure what to expect in 2026. I think he could get back to close to 15 home runs. I would expect more like somewhere in the range of 12 to 15 in a full season, and then like 15 to 20 stolen bases. Because his sprint speed's still there, and he did steal 20 in 2024. So somewhere in the middle, I think could be good in a full season. Last year he played 143 games, so pretty much a full season there for Otto Lopez. And then the last grouping here, I have tier 6, just kind of the leftover guys. 18, I do have Luis Garcia Jr., 16 home runs, 14 stolen bases, 252 average, and a 289 on base percentage, which that is why he's down here so low. If we go to Luis Garcia Jr.'s page here, he does not hit righties well, I believe. Versus lefties, he's got a 179 average and a 224 on base percentage. That was last season. Does hit really well against righties, but that batting average and on base percentage is really hard to overcome for a guy who's not an everyday player. And I don't know that the power will really be there. Also, his sprint speed's only in the 25th percentile, so I think this 22 stolen base number in 24 is probably his ceiling. I wouldn't be shocked if it's around 14 again or 10 to 14. But the power should be right around like 15, 16 home runs. He does hit righties well, but just is pretty much a complete zero against lefties. So that's a huge negative for Garcia. And then at 19, I do have Brendan Donovan. He's outfield eligible and shortstop eligible. So bunch of eligibility for Donovan. He did go over to Seattle this offseason. 10 home runs, 3 stolen bases for St. Louis last year. Does have a good on-base percentage, 353. And then will contribute in the runs and RBI category as well. But it's kind of hard to rank here because he doesn't do anything exceptionally well. He's not too fast, doesn't hit too many home runs, but he does everything else okay. Like, he will contribute in runs and RBIs. And then he's got a 353 on OBP last year. Like, that's very serviceable. And then his average 287, that's like elite at the second base position. So if you're in a league that takes into account average in a roto league, Donovan, definitely startable, at least in like a middle infield spot or a utility spot. And then there are some bright spots. Like, he does square up the ball hard, or he squares up the ball, hits the sweet spot, and his batting average is going to be pretty high. 284, 278, and 287 over the past 3 seasons. So that's all going to be there. You just can't expect much power and can't expect much stolen base, which it's a interesting profile. And then at number 20, I do have Brett Baty for New York. He also is third base eligible. Did hit 18 home runs, stole 8 bases last year. Around 50 RBI and runs. He is still very young, which is why I'm actually still interested in Baty. Only 26 years old. And there's some things to look at here. Bat speed is an 86th percentile. Barrel percentage is also really good as well. And the fact that he hit 18 home runs last year shows that he has some power. And at this late in the draft, I think if there are guys who have a couple things that jump out to you, like bat speed or specific skills, I think it's worth taking a shot on them. If he can raise his on-base percentage up a couple points, 10 or 15 points, and then continue to hit for power, and add in 5 or so steals, he'll be a very serviceable second base option, especially like in the middle infield spot. But I can't necessarily guarantee that with Baty. And he is way down here, I believe, Brett Baty. I don't know even where he is as far as ADP goes. Okay, he's down here at 306. So I wouldn't mind taking a shot on him. Obviously, there are not many people who believe in what he can do or what he did last year. But I don't mind it. All right, moving on to 21, I do have Colt Keith. 13 home runs, 2 stolen bases last year. 45 RBI, 65 runs, and then 256 average with a 333 on base percentage. And I do like a couple things with Colt Keith. He is still only 22 years old for the Tigers. 24 years old for the Tigers. But if we look here, there are, most of his metrics are above average. Hits the sweet spot a ton, 96th percentile. And he's not going to kill you in batting average or on base percentage. And I feel like his power is kind of coming along. If you go back to 24, hard hit was 22%, 22nd percentile. Bat speed was 39th percentile. Hard hit percentage came up, barrel percentage came up, and average exit velocity also came up. So 3 things that are showing that he has a little bit more power. And I feel like he should steal some bases. 66th percentile, stole 7 bases in 2024. So I think that could come up to like 4 or 5 stolen bases if he wants to run as well. And then at 22, I do have Jose Caballero, pretty much because his stolen bases. 49 stolen bases last season, really no power. But he gets on at a decent rate, 339 on base percentage, and then steals a bunch of bases. So that's why I like Caballero. He is now a New York Yankee. You can see here, not really going to hit the ball hard, and he actually overperformed his batting average last year and on base percentage. So I can see that dropping a little bit, but stolen bases are pretty consistent, 44 in 2024 and then 49 in 25. So 40-plus stolen base guy this late in the draft can be useful to some. In a points league, probably not, but if you're in a roto league, he will get you stolen bases. And then lastly, I do have Chase Meidroth here at 23, 5 home runs, 14 stolen bases, 23 RBIs, 54 runs last year, 253 average, and a 329 on base percentage. And I'm really just banking in the youth here for the White Sox. They did improve their roster a little bit, especially in the offensive side of the ball. And he's only 24 with 1 season under his belt. And, he put together a decent season. There's not going to be much power, but if he can, steal, around 15 bases and then get his power up going into the season, he could be a decent option at second base. There are a couple things that I like here about his profile. He does square the ball up, it looks like. XPA is a little above average, and then there's room to possibly grow. Exit velocity, hard hit percentage could climb. Same with bat speed. Still very young and only has 1 season in the majors. Also was only 122 games. If he plays a full season, probably hitting 7 home runs with, say, 20 stolen bases last year. It's not too bad at pick all the way down here, probably somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, he's way down here at pick 395. So I'd like taking a shot on him on, over most of these other guys down here that are above him in ADP. So that is Chase Meidroth for the White Sox. And that does wrap up my second base rankings 1 through 23. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like on the video. Hit the subscribe button. I'm going position by position all the way through every player, at least every player in the top 250 in ADP. So be sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more, and we will be back soon with the third base position.